Let's get started with Kimberbell's Spring Shower Quilt. While Spring Showers has been out for several years, this will be my first Kimberbell project. This project comes with a booklet that has a CD with your embroidery files, a fabric cut guide to help you prepare all of your fabrics, and very detailed step-by-step color pictures of each of the blocks. I have prepped all my fabric by putting a fusible stabilizer onto the back of almost all of the fabric. There are a few blocks that do not have a stabilizer, and we will go over those when it's time to assemble those blocks. Adding a fusible stabilizer helps eliminate puckering while we're embroidering. I've separated my fabric by block and have put them into these organizer packets. I've labeled them with the name of the block and the page number. It's so easy to pull a packet and work on a block. Let's get started on the 3 umbrella blocks on row 1. I'm going to be working in Embellishment to merge the quilting background and the umbrella design. When you open Embellishment, the last hoop size that you use will automatically be displayed. I'm going to be changing mine from a 5x7 hoop to my 7x12 hoop. Click the Preferences folder on the top toolbar, choose your hoop size, and select Apply. Then click OK. Since we selected a larger hoop, we want to be able to see the entire hoop on our design page. If we click the compass and then click H, that will bring our entire hoop into our design space. And then we'll navigate to where we have our quilting designs. I have a folder for Kimberbell on my desktop, so I will navigate to the Spring Showers folder. And I will choose the quilting bundle. While the quilting designs are a separate purchase, they are designed to fit the projects perfectly. However, you can use any design background quilting that you would like. Just make sure that it fits the block that you're making. For this first umbrella, we will be using the Weather 3 background quilting design. We will be using the block by block method, and we will be choosing the 6x6 horizontal design. We simply double click on the design and it will be centered into the Embellishment software. The next step is to bring our umbrella into the software. We'll select the merge icon on the top right of the toolbar. We will navigate to where we have the embroidery files in the Spring Showers folder. These are 3 bonus files that come with your project. We will open the embroidery files and find our first yellow umbrella. We'll double click the umbrella and it will be centered in the Embellishment software. Now our block is ready to go. You can see on the right hand side we have 2 files that make up this merged file. We have the quilting and we have the umbrella. Once we save this as a stitch file, it will be merged into one file. When we're done merging our designs, we will save our stitch file. Click File, Save Stitch File As. Name your file and choose where you want to save this file. I made a folder called Spring Showers Combined Files. This is a folder that I will open when I'm ready to stitch my block. However, this step of combining files and merging them into one file is completely optional. You can add each file the background quilting and then the embroidery file at the machine. I've got the merged file saved in my Kimberbell folder on my desktop, and now I need to get the files onto my USB so I can transfer them over to my machine. I'm going to open my USB flash drive and drag the merged block that I just made into the Spring Showers Combined Files folder on my USB. I'm on a Mac, so I'm not sure if this applies to PC users, but don't forget to eject your USB before actually removing the USB from your computer. I've used a CD that comes with the instructions and downloaded the embroidery files onto my computer. I've transferred the designs onto a USB. I have a pigtail cord plugged into my machine, and I have the USB plugged into the cord. This saves wear and tear on the USB port on my machine. I use Brilliance embroidery software, and I'm going to combine the background quilting and the embroidery file into one merged file. I'll put these in a folder called Combined Files. This is a folder that I will open and retrieve the designs when I stitch each block. Let's start on the yellow umbrella. I have all my materials in the packet. I'm going to pull the design from the USB. I have muslin hooped as a stabilizer, and I'll go into more detail about that in a little bit. The first thing we stitch is the placement line for the batting. This is stitched right onto the muslin or stabilizer and gives you a guide to where to put the batting. I put a little bit of spray adhesive on the back of the batting and place it directly in the stitched guide. We can skip the next two steps in the design. The tack down of the batting, because we already have cut that to size, and the placement of the fabric. The placement of the fabric is about 1/4 of an inch outside of the batting. And our fabric is much larger, so all we have to do is center the fabric over the batting. And we will do the tack down of the main fabric to hold that in place while we quilt. When it's time to change threads, you don't want to just pull back through the tension discs, as that can damage them. So I unthread the top part past the tension discs, and then the thread is just free and you can pull it with no worries. I'll be using metallic thread for the background quilting behind all of the umbrellas. Metallic thread needs to be put on a thread stand so that it won't jam up your machine and perhaps break a needle. Also, when using metallic thread, you should lower the speed of your machine. I'm putting my setting to 350 stitches per minute, which is the lowest my machine goes. stitch the placement line for the first fabric of the umbrella. All of the fabrics for the umbrellas have a clear iron-on vinyl fused to the top right side of the fabric. This gives the fabric a glossy, shiny look. We'll place the fabric over the placement lines and tack down. Then we'll use scissors and trim all the excess around the applique. We'll follow the same process for the center piece of the umbrella. The last step of the umbrella is to stitch the detail. Part of the detail is rain, and we will be using a blue metallic thread. So we will slow the machine down and put that metallic thread on a thread stand. Here are the pictures of the muslin strips that I use instead of stabilizer. It gives a soft finish and is a little bit more cost effective. I don't waste as much because I can move the muslin up without cutting the previous block off, so I'm not wasting. If a block does not have batting and quilting, then I will use traditional stabilizer and not muslin. The next two umbrellas are done with the same technique as the first, with just minor differences in background quilting and placement. This is the spray adhesive that I use sometimes instead of tape. There are several brands that you can use. We have a little applique frog on one of the umbrellas, and it's done in the same way. We will first make the placement and then attach the fabric, which in this case is felt, cut around it, and finish stitching the detail. Here you can see the 3 umbrella blocks attached to the strip of muslin and how it saves on material. You can also do this with standard traditional stabilizer. Cut the stabilizer into the strip needed for your size hoop and use it in the same way. Now we need to remove the tack down line that goes around each of the blocks. We'll cut the muslin close to the batting line. This will prevent the muslin from being inside the seams when we sew our blocks together, and this will create less bulk. I iron my blocks before I cut them to size. Because these umbrellas have the clear vinyl on the top, we need to make sure to cover with a pressing cloth, or I'm using a Teflon sheet. You never want to put a hot iron directly onto the vinyl or it will melt it. I will use the orange pop rulers from Kimberbell to cut each block to size. Flip it over so you can see the batting, and you will center the block in the pop ruler so that there's a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance around the edge. Flipping it to the back makes this so much easier. There are some background quilting designs that stitch into the seam allowance, as you can see on this teal umbrella block. The muslin won't be able to be cut right next to the batting line, but cut as close to those stitches as you can. We'll get a little bit of muslin in the seam allowance, but we'll take out as much as we can for the least amount of bulk. Now let's sew our 3 umbrella blocks together. With right sides together, we'll use clips to secure the blocks while we sew a 1/4 inch seam. After pressing the seams open, I'll use Best Press to get a little extra stability. Best Press is just a starch alternative. Here you can see a little bit of the background quilting of the teal umbrella in the 1/4 inch seam. There is a little bit of muslin in the 1/4 inch seam, but we got rid of as much as we could. After pressing the seam open, I use a wood tailor's clapper to set the seam. This helps keep the seam flat. Our first 3 blocks of row 1 are done.